And like the first day, like, and she had a really like hard name to pronounce. And so like I had pronounced it and I was like, or I asked her, I said, how do you say your name? And she's just like, you know, she said her name, but she said it with like really bad attitude. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm like, but it's your name. And I would assume that you would want people to like say your name properly. You know what I mean? Like I can call you whatever, but I'm like, don't you have enough respect for yourself that you would want people to call you by this name? And so like she was sassy in the beginning, and then it was like after a couple of tough love things, like she was stuck to me like glue.
Okay, great. All right. So I'm Nicole. And remind me what your name is.
Diana.
Diana. Nice to meet you. I caught your channel. It just kind of popped up on my feed because I've been watching like teaching content, and I really liked your vibe.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing YouTube?
Not long actually. Probably, I would say maybe the summer or ending of the school year last year. So, yeah, so I would probably say like towards the end of my school year last year. So what was that, 20? Well, I guess this year, but after tomorrow, no. So 2020, the ending school year of 2023.
Oh,
And
literally, like
yes. Mm-hmm.
so.
So not very long. So I think like I did maybe a couple of videos for my last fifth grade class towards the end, and then I think I did my classroom setup video, and then I've just been doing it this year, so this school year.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So my channel, I started, I don't know if you probably haven't seen, but like on my YouTube, I started last year with like, I have like 4 or 5 videos, but then I had a hard time keeping up with it.
Yes,
because the
that's
school
what I
year
realized.
happens.
Yes, and that's what I realized, that it's like, and see, with me, it's not even so much the school year, it's more so my home life, because I have two littles. I have a 6 and a 5-year-old. I have Irish twins.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, that's like, so a lot of the times, like, when I'm filming, I'm in my car, or I'm like somewhere where I know no one else is, because I'm like, I can't film at home, because
Yeah.
like my kids know YouTube, and they'll just be like, Mom, you're filming a YouTube, and then they want to be in it, and I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah.
But so it's always so hard. But yeah, so
Yeah.
so that to me was always like the hardest thing. Like some of the teachers that I follow, like they're at home and they do like a whole like week in the life and making dinner and all this other stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you know, fortunately for you, you don't have 2 little kids, and you know, it's just you, or you and your husband, or you and your boyfriend, and it's so much easier to
Yeah.
do. But it's like,
It's a
yeah,
whole
so.
different thing when you've got
Mhm.
little ones. So I will
Mhm.
I will say that will get easier because I've got a now 11-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, nice.
So
Okay,
it gets easier.
good.
Just
Okay,
stick with it.
good. Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. But yeah, like I said, I've tried to, you know, like I said, for the most part, when I get the opportunity, and usually it's either driving to school, driving home, or like in school is when I get like the best time to actually like sit down and,
And
you
have
know,
your you
record.
time. Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know. And
So
do something for you instead of
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, so I just wanted to know for our viewers, what is your background as far as teaching? How did you start out in the profession? Kind of take us through your
So
story.
so I feel like I've always known I wanted to be a teacher. I really enjoyed school, and I was like, if I'm not going to be a teacher, I want to be something involved in school. I used to enjoy like just the atmosphere of school, like, you know, from the front desk person to like the people that work there. And so as I kind of got older, I realized like my mom, she like dropped out of school when she was 14. She had my brother when she was 14.
Wow.
So she was very young. And my dad also dropped out of school in Puerto Rico when he was like in high school. So, and my mom is illiterate. And so it was always fascinating to me. I'm like, how do you go through life not knowing how to read and write? And so that was always like my driving force. I'm like, nobody should ever have to experience that. And I know that there are other circumstances as to why she was illiterate. But I'm like, being where I'm at, I'm like, I just can't imagine somebody going through life and not being able to, have those like basic capabilities. And so that's kind of what always drove me to wanting to be a teacher. And I, I get a joy out of like teaching someone something and then watching them utilize it or teach someone else. And I'm just like, oh, I taught them that. So, like I'm getting that a lot, like with my kids now, where it's like, I'll teach them something. And then like my son will come back like weeks later and we'll be talking and then he'll like repeat exactly what I said or something. And I'm like, oh, you remembered. Awesome. So,
Yeah, I know.
mm-hmm.
It's so rewarding too when it's like something good, like being kind to other people or how to treat
Yes.
other people. Like when you see your
Yes.
own kids doing that in the playground or whatever, it's very
Mm-hmm.
rewarding. But that's so cool. So did you ever live in Puerto Rico or were you...
I was born and raised here. I've only been to Puerto Rico, I guess, twice now. The first one was when I was 6. I went with my dad to meet my grandmother. And then I stayed there for about a week. It was the worst experience. Only for me because I was 6. I didn't know about, like, the salt water, and I remember we went to the beach, and I swallowed so much. And I'm from Chicago. So it's like when you go to Lake Michigan, like, you're in there, it's like, it's dirty, but it's not salt water. And so I went, and I swallowed so much water that I was, like, sick to my stomach. And then I guess, like, so I always tell people my boyfriend makes fun of me all the time, but I'm like, I really feel like I have that blood that attracts mosquitoes. And like, I feel like I'm really allergic. And I just remember getting bitten up so bad that I looked like I had the chicken pox.
Oh my gosh.
It was just like, there was so many things that happened in that week vacation when I was 6 that it was like, this is the worst vacation ever. So I never went back. And then plus a lot of my family in Puerto Rico moved here.
Yeah.
And so, so I just never went back. And then my friend a couple years ago for my birthday, she took me to Puerto Rico. But I did like the touristy Puerto Rico. I didn't do like, but yeah. So I just, and like I said, I don't really have family out there anymore to like go and experience it. But, the roots haven't changed. Like my mom is still alive and, she'll tell me things, when my dad was still alive, he would tell me a lot of the things in Puerto Rico. And, I still have family today. And my sister, she's a little older than me, and she kind of keeps those, like I was telling you, I think on my comment, that she keeps those Puerto Rican traditions alive. And so,
that's so cool. Mm-hmm. That's neat.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what are you like teaching right now? Like, what's your grade level? What subjects do you teach?
So I've been teaching. This is my, I always say either 11th or 12th year. I always forget which one it is. And so I've always taught 5th grade. I've only taught 4th grade once, and I looped with my kids. And so currently I'm teaching 5th grade dual English in the suburbs of like Chicago, I guess you would say. So it's really interesting because our program that we have, it's not like dual language where we have like ELLs that like are here and we're teaching them. It's more so a program where it's like, if your kids want, we do have ELL students that get put in our program if they're younger, but it's like, if you're, for example, if you're a Caucasian family and you want your kids to learn Spanish, they put them in this program young. So they start from kindergarten and like to 5th grade. And so they learn reading, writing, grammar, and social studies in English, but then they learn math, science, and then like Spanish literature on the Spanish side.
Yes.
So I teach the English side of that, where I'm teaching the kids like English stuff, and then my partner, she teaches math, science, and like Spanish literature on her end. So we like swap classes. So I have like about 42 kids all together. So
cool. Yeah, no, I do the same thing. So I teach math and science. We call it Spanish Immersion down here. But yeah.
Okay, so it's the same thing. Yeah. Okay.
I teach math and science and Spanish, and then my partner teacher teaches ELA. And then like our current model, we're supposed to add some Spanish literature, but just with our minutes, we always find that that's hard.
See, and that's what we're struggling with now too. And so like a lot of the things fall on my end. So like any extra stuff that we have to do, I usually do it because I know she doesn't have the minutes, but they're kind of playing with the idea because so the crazy thing is like in our program, they only get it till fifth grade. And then when they go to middle school, they get math and English.
Yeah.
And then they'll only like the only thing they'll have is they'll have like advanced Spanish. So they're kind of toying with the notion of switching the math to the English side. And so I would do like reading and math and like the two core subjects in English, and then she would have more time for the Spanish literature, science. But I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea because then the minutes are going to be shorter on my end. So I think the model that I thought was more appropriate was if they gave us the science portion, and then she could focus more on the Spanish lit and math.
Yeah.
And then I could do social studies, science, and like English lit. So, but yeah, that's good. Like I said, we're having that same issue with the minutes as well.
So, the way that our district, we come from I teach in a very small district, and it's kind of teaching in a small town where like if one person complains, then it's a big thing, and the district has to have like a, I don't know if that's the same thing with you.
Well, yeah. So little background. Prior to being in this district I'm at now, I was in Chicago public school system. So I was in the big district.
Right.
So like we had, tons of schools. So it was like within our district, we had networks. So it'd be like, if you're on the south side of Chicago, you had like one network where it would be like a certain amount of schools. The new district I'm in now is kind of similar to yours, where we have maybe about like maybe 6 or 7 elementary schools and then 1 middle school, and then we have 2 high schools.
Yeah.
So it is a smaller district. So it's the same thing where it's like there's only one superintendent. So like if a parent complains about stuff, like, yeah, it's a little bit more as opposed to like before it's like a parent will complain, and unless you're on the national news, no one's really taking your like voice to consideration.
Right.
And so yeah, we're in this kind of the same boat. So that's kind of what's been happening. A lot of parents have been like, not so much complaining about like our program, but more so like we have a really high turnover on our program. And then one of the other things that we've kind of come across, we've been teaching the Lucy Calkins curriculum, and it's just not really good for ELL students. And so they're kind of adopting a new curriculum next year. So they're currently piloting one now, and so we're hoping that will help a little bit more, because a lot of the kids, like with the Lucy Calkins curriculum, they're not really getting spelling, they're not really getting vocabulary, and we're kind of starting to see how that's been affecting a lot of the students, especially these kids that are coming from the lower grades from COVID. So it's like,
I know. It's just compounded everything.
Yeah.
It's so funny because even that concept of tenured, like we don't have that in Texas. We don't have no.
At all? Oh wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
See, it's so crazy how every district is different.
Like,
I didn't even realize that, like, going to each district, like, because like I don't live in the district that I teach in. Like, I live in a different suburb, and then the suburb I'm at is like 30 minutes from me. But the suburb that I live in, the contract is not comparable. So like they won't honor all 10 years of my teaching. They'll only honor like 3 or 4 or 5. So it's like I only get that pay base based on how many years they honor.
That sucks.
And thankfully the district that I'm at is like one of the higher ones that will actually honor all my years. So I was like, okay, perfect. But yeah, I didn't know. I just figured all suburbs were the same. And then as I started looking for a job, I was like, wait. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we only honor 2. So you only get paid as if you work 2 years.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
I'm like, see ya.
Okay, and so what would you, and I'm really interested now, because you say you're 5th grade, and I struggle with this a lot, even in 4th grade, because I taught like K and first. So I'm used to the kids like loving me. Like, and so how do you handle, like, what's your classroom management like? How do you get the kids to do work? You know, like, how do you do it all?
It's funny. I'm on the other end, because I'm looking at you like, God bless you. My son entered kindergarten this year, and his teacher, I sent him like a Christmas, I gave her like a $25 Visa gift card, and she's like, thank you so much. And I'm like, no, that's not enough. If I could have given you way more, I would have, because I couldn't teach my son. And people are like, yeah, why didn't you just, homeschool your kids? And I'm like, no. So I can't do the littles.
Right.
And I'm on the opposite, so I'm like, bless you. But yeah, so one thing that I realized teaching fifth grade, so I like that they're more independent. I like that they're like fifth grade is at that age where it's like I feel like they're independent, but they still they like the instant gratification. They like to please their teacher. So I mean, not everybody, obviously, but just one of the things that the biggest thing for my classroom management is building relationships with my students and being very personal with them, because I feel like you could have the best classroom management in the world and you could have the best lesson in the world. But if the kids don't like you and they have no respect for you, they will just be like, might as well be talking to a brick wall. Yeah. So one of the things that I have always tried to do is build relationships with my kids and just make my content relatable to like real life and like what they would experience or what I experience. And I think that has helped a lot. And I feel like if you're passionate about what you do and you show them that, hey, I'm doing this because I care and I want you to get an education as opposed to you're just a job, they see that. And I mean, I've taught, like, thankfully now the district I'm in, the kids, like, behavior wise, it's a lot different than like the city children and like what they've been exposed to.
Yeah.
So I've been in some really like urban neighborhoods that have been really high poverty. Mm-hmm. And early on, I've learned that if you don't have that rapport with the kids, like you might as well just might as well just give up, because they won't trust you. They won't, have anything to say. And I was a product of the Chicago public school system. So it was like one of those things where I'm like, hey, I came from a poor family. So like, if I can do it, you can do it. Like, it's not something where it's like, I'm just here because I need a job. I care about kids.
You were part of the community. Like you're
right.
Mm-hmm. You had that connection with them.
Yeah.
Which must have been awesome.
So, yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of students where it's just like I said, one I'll never forget. I remember she had transferred out of our school, and then she was coming back, and everybody at the school like knew this girl, and they were like, oh my God, she's terrible. She's got the worst attitude, and blah, blah, blah. Like, everybody was just filling my head with all these things, and I was like, oh my God, what am I getting into? So she comes, and like the first day, like, and she had a really like hard name to pronounce, and so like I had pronounced it, and I was like, or I asked her, I said, how do you say your name? And she's just like, she said her name, but she said it with like really bad attitude. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm like, but it's your name, and I would assume that you would want people to like say your name properly. You know what I mean? Like, I can call you whatever, but I'm like, don't you have enough respect for yourself that you would want people to call you by this name? And so like she was sassy in the beginning, and then it was like after a couple of tough love things, like she was stuck to me like glue. Like, and I just seen a lot of things on her that she just wanted to be successful, like testing and work, because she knew that I cared about her and she wanted to do well for me.
Right.
And so I never had a problem with her like the way that other people had. Mm-hmm. And, she would listen to me when I'd have a conversation with her, and I would talk to her. And, I mean, she was still pretty rough, but not to me. And I think it was just basically just building that rapport with her. That is what made a difference. And so, I mean, I still don't get a lot of kids to do work as much as I would like them to do.
Right.
So I think that's just everybody. Yeah. But that was my one biggest thing. It's like just, having that relationship with the kids and showing them that you care, because it's like, once you kind of are just like, well, whatever, you're going to fail, whatever, like
they don't care.
They know. Yeah, they know. My son knows. Like, I'll sit there and, when I just come home and I'm just like so defeated from the day, and he'll just be like, he'll ask me for something. I'll be like, you know what? You can just take whatever you want. And he'll look at me. He goes, why do you say it to me like that? And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you just say it different than when you're like, sure. he knew that like I say it like in those just like I just don't care attitude. And he's 6 and he knows. He's
Yeah.
just like, why do you say it like that? So I'm like, I think that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah. All right. If you were talking to a first year teacher, what is the one piece of advice that you would give that you wish somebody had told you?
Whatever they teach you in college, you're not gonna use it. You're not gonna use it at all. Yeah, it's just it's like you're gonna have the ideas of what it's like to be a teacher, but it's all gonna come from where you are, like where you stem from. It, yeah, like I think about things that I learned in college, and I'm like, they didn't prepare me for anything.
I know, I know.
They did it. So like I think about it now, where like I'd be in classes and they'd have you write these like 12-page lesson plans, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, like even now, like I don't even turn in plans. They're just like,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just that would be my one thing. Is just like whatever they teach you, just kind of take with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're gonna have your own experiences, and that's one of the things that I wish that they would have taught more in college is like classroom management and behavior management. Like I know that they're meant to teach you the technical stuff, but it's like that would probably help someone out a lot more than to teach them like the background of education, or like what's the one with the one where they're just like the guy that studied the dogs, and it's like if
Pavlov.
you ring the bell, and
Pavlov.
yes, like there's just no yeah, I was like it served no purpose for me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Agreed.
it literally wasn't until I student taught that like I was in the classroom where I was like, and then again, that's how I realized that I would never do primary, because I student taught first grade, and I made a little girl cry because I'm very sarcastic, and like, or I'll like incorporate my students in my jokes, and she was just like, I used her as an example for something, and she was like, but I don't do that. And I was like, no, I know. I'm like, I'm just saying as an example. And she's like, but I don't do it. And she just started bawling her eyes out. And I was like, and my lesson was gone. And we were doing a science lesson, and I was like, it was gone. And I was like, so at that point, I was like, yeah, I couldn't. And even my principal last year, she was like, yeah, I couldn't see you doing the kids. Because I'm like, even now, if you've met my kids, like, they're very, like, they speak like they're adults, because I don't talk to them like little kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, my son is very adult. My daughter is very adult. And I'm like, but you're 5. She's like 5 going on like 14. And I'm like, all right. So, but yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you have like a 30-minute commute. So I'm curious to know if you have what is your work-life balance? Because I struggle with this too. Just like, you come home, and now that we're moms now, so we've got laundry, we've got dishes for more than just us, like how do you balance it all, if there is such a thing?
So as of right now, like, it's so funny because I was just thinking about this. So I try to, so one of my friends gave me a piece of advice the year before last that I worked with, and she says, I come home and I set a timer for 30 minutes, and I'll focus on one task, and I'll only give myself 30 minutes for that task. And she's like, so it's like, if it's doing the dishes, she's like, I'll just do the dishes. So it's like, I've come to realize that as much as I look around and I want to do everything, it's like, I can't. And so it is a little rough. Sometimes there'll be those days where it's like the dishes will be in the sink for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Or like the toys will be around.
Yeah.
And, it's like, but it's just, I think in the end, to me, the work and life balance is more of the, like, balancing time spent with my kids and my family. I think, like, everything else, like, dishes are always going to be there. Toys, I'm like looking around because we just got through Christmas. I'm like, toys are always going to be there.
I know.
And I have 3 dogs too. So
like
no. yes. Like the 2 of them are like sleeping right here. One is on the sofa over there. And so it's like, I'm just like, these things are always going to be here no matter what. So it's more so for me of like being able to get home and being able to spend time with them and do things with them or just have conversations like with my son, like, how was your day, and like, how was school, and him knowing that we can have conversations and he can tell me about things that are going on. Like, that's, to me, is more important. That's my balance, because I don't want to be like coming home and doing all of these other things and him not share his day with me or share things. And then it goes to the point where it's like he doesn't tell me. And then if something's going on in his life, I don't want him to not come to me and tell me that something's happening, especially nowadays with, kids and bullying. And it's like, that's the last thing I want. I want my son to be able to be like, hey, if there's a problem, as soon as I get home and I see my mom, I'm letting her know and she's going to handle it. So that, to me, is the balance. Like, everything else is going to work itself out, or I'll just throw out the dishes and buy new ones. I mean,
yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that's the same for you, because it's like, I'm pretty sure, you'll do laundry and then 3 days later you're like, oh, there's another pile.
I know.
So it's like, it's always, and it's always going to be there.
You know what?
So,
sometimes, full disclosure, sometimes like I don't fold it, and so then the next weekend it's like I have more laundry to do, but I haven't folded the clean one. Like.
Oh my God. So me, I'm the worst. So like I'll do laundry all day. Like, I'll throw it in the wash, I'll throw it in the dryer. It's like, when I get it upstairs, I'm like,
what do I do?
I don't want
now?
to put it away. I don't want to put it away. That's the one thing I won't do. I hate putting it away. And I do my laundry and my kids' laundry. Like, my boyfriend, thankfully, he does his own laundry, because he's like, he knows me. Like, I tell him all the time, I'm like the guy in the relationship. He's very particular about his clothes, and he does everything, and they're folded, they're neat. I'm like, just give me some out the laundry basket, I'm throwing it on. And so he doesn't let me sit. Like, he'll be like, I'll wash my own clothes, and then he knows that I just shove them in there and I throw a bunch of detergent and make it smell nice, and he's more meticulous with it. So thankfully he'll do his own laundry, so that's one less. But my kids, and now they're getting to the point where it's like they want to wear their own clothes and they want to pick their own things. So, like, they're taking stuff out of the drawers, because, like, I'll fold it and I'll make an outfit. So it's just easier for me to grab.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but, like, my son will be like, well, I don't want to wear that shirt with those pants. So he's, like, taking stuff, and I'm just looking at him like, so now I'm like, if you're going to do that, you're going to start putting your own laundry away. And then he'll be like, okay, Mom. And he'll put it back. And he'll be like, okay, Mom. Because he knows, like, I tell him, I'm like, hey, that's fine. If we want to do this, but now you have to take the responsibility. Yeah. So he'll be like, I'll listen to you, so I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what it is. I mean, like I said, like, I'm sure your kids come home and you probably have conversations with them, want to know about their day. And I mean, you have a son, daughter?
I have a younger son and an older daughter.
See, and you said 11, right? So,
yeah.
Like, now it's getting to that point where she's going to get into middle school, and it's like, you definitely have to be attentive to, like, what's happening to her.
Yeah.
So.
But my thing is, because I'm a teacher, she goes to my school. So she's like, she is ready to have me out of her life. Because I know all her friends, everybody knows me, you know what I mean? So she's
it's
just
such a close-knit,
yeah. She's like, I just want to be in middle school already. I don't want to see you. Don't meddle in my life. And I'm like, I'm going to meddle until you're 70, sweetie.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in your life.
Absolutely. But yeah, so yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, right now, like, thankfully my son, he, shares everything with me. Like, my daughter will share everything with me. So I'm like, and I just want to keep that going, because it's like, that's what's more important to me.
Yes.
So I'm like, that's the best balance I could get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, this was so much fun. I really feel like I just kind of chatted with like a long lost friend or something.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that was so nice. Thank you so much. Please remind everybody what your YouTube channel is.
It's E in elementary, so it's like E_in_elementary, but E in elementary.
Cool. Well, yes, I will link her channel in the video description below, and
thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana, for coming on, and I look forward to seeing what you're up to on your YouTube handles.
Yeah, I'm glad you subscribe. I'm glad you're enjoying the videos. Like, sometimes I find myself like, I'm like, am I talking, like, because you always kind of match what other people are doing. You're like, do I do more of that, less of that? But at the end, I'm just like, I'm just gonna be me. And then, people like it, they do. If they don't, they don't. Fair.
And yeah,
So,
and that's just it. It's like the
yeah.
people that like it will stay, and the ones that don't have to watch.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. Well, this was fun. And yeah, if you have any other questions or whatever, just you shoot me an email or a text. And yeah, I'll definitely be willing to do whatever.
all right, cool. Well, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Nice to
Bye.
meet you. Bye bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.